Hi everybody, Amber here from Atomik Photography, bringing you tips and tricks on beauty, fashion and travel photography. Today I'm going to take you through some of the most common panels on Lightroom. These are the ones that I most commonly use in my workflow, and I'll be highlighting what each one of those does. So first off, I'm going to start with the library panel, and this is where you will usually bring your files when you want to import them. This is where you can find all your pictures, and I kind of archive them by year and by the shoot that I've done. And so you can see all my different files and folders are in this structure. So when you are importing files, you come up with a dialog which will say select a source, and if my camera was attached here, you would see my Canon 5D. You can then start to put some handling criteria on them, whether you want to build some smart previews, whether you want to rename your files, whether you want to apply certain criteria during the import, whether that's like metadata, some keywords, etc. So you can apply all of those in batch to the files that you are importing. I normally organize them into a single folder by date, and I will name that folder, as I said, by the year and what subject of the photo shoot. And so that's generally what happens in the import dialog. If you come back to the library, this is where for particular photo shoots, I will go through and I will flag certain images. So in the library panel, you go through your photo shoot and you can flag them, and it helps to select images down. So if I was to select this image, these three images, we can then apply a filter on them, and only those three images would show. So it's really handy for after a photo shoot when you want to sort of select your strongest few and send them to your client. This is the way that I do it. So I can flag them. Then out of the flagged ones, because normally I'll have about between 400 and 600 images from a photo shoot. I'll normally edit that down to about 100 that I like. I won't process 100, so I will then put different color flags on them based on how I want to treat those images. I can sometimes use a different color flag for the choices that my clients have made versus the choices that I have made, etc. So it's really handy that the main thing that I use the library panel for is for filtering and selecting the images that I want from a particular shoot. Let me just take this filter off. If I go then into the develop panel, this is where I do most of my image manipulation and editing. As you can see, I've already started to sort of put a bit of a pink sky on here, but yeah, that's not quite, that's covering her face, and her face looked really pink there. So I'm just going to pull these up a little bit so that her face doesn't look as pink. And this is where you'll see in a lot of my tutorials, I'll do most of my work, whether that is to straighten an image up or to crop it or to change the temperature, exposure, the tone curve, hue, saturation and illumination. And this is a really fun one actually. I like to come into here and play around with selectively which colours I want to boost up or down, and have a lot more control over, oh dear, we don't want to make Aggie orange, nor do we want her to be grey. But you can see that selective colours in the image, you can push the saturation up. Luminances is the lightness of the colour, so I can bring the luminance of all the oranges up and it brightens it up, or I can bring it down. And you can start to play around with some of these sliders on your images as well. And what the hue will do is it will change within a particular colour sort of, you know, where the hue sits on the scale, sort of the rainbow scale here. Split toning, you can change the colours of your highlight, the sort of colour cast, and you can change also the colour cast of your shadow. So if I wanted to have a sort of a pinky shadow, you can see that brings a bit more of a pinky shadow in, which looks like an old film effect. And then something I very commonly use is the sharpening tool. I tend to not use noise reduction very much in my images, and lens correction as well. It depends on whether you've had sort of any issues with the lenses that you've got, whether you've got any purple fringing going on, etc. But I tend to not do very much with that either. I don't play around too much with the transform tool, but on effects, I might want to add vignettes to a picture, and I can control that from here as well. Again, I don't use the camera calibration very much, and this will help you shift again some of the tones in your image. And that's the gist of the develop panel. At the top here, you can add gradients to your images, as I've done here. So you can start to selectively part of your image if you want to darken it or lighten it or put a colour cast over it. You can do that through the gradient tool. You can also get rid of sort of minor blemishes on the image with a bit of a clone style tool. So you literally just hit the button and it starts to remove some of the... I've got tiny people on my horizon over there, and you can start to remove those. And obviously you can adjust the crop and the angle of the image from this panel as well. So that's the develop tool. I tend not to use the map tool either, which is around location where images were taken. I'm not going to go there. Books, you can start to make your own books here within Lightroom itself. If you want to do layouts, you can do that. So if I come into the web panel, you can see you can create a Lightroom gallery from here. So once I've done my image selection, I will filter out any duds that I've got. I'll pick the strongest ones. I will then create a web gallery for a client. You can give it a title, and you can start to add different things like the caption, the title. So I want the caption to be the file name so that it's easier for my clients to tell me which image it is that they are looking at, and basically when they click on it they can see the file name underneath it, so they can tell me which images they like. I can then come back into the library mode and put their selections in a particular color format, and this you can upload to any FTP site, and also you can sync this up to your mobile Lightroom app, and so people can access it on their... You can send them a link and they can access it on their mobiles as well. So for example, this was one of the galleries that I had made for a client of mine, and they basically were able to look through these images and give me their selection of which ones they wanted me to edit. So those are the main panels. The library, develop and the web panel are the ones that I use the most. In the develop panel, I think it's worth talking a little bit about presets and the sorts of presets that I will use. And I'm not averse to using presets. I think anything that helps you to start to really speed up your workflow is a good thing. Basically, you can start to play around, and I've bought some presets from various creators as well as having created my own. And yeah, those are the main things that I wanted to talk to you today about Lightroom. I hope you found that useful. If you did, please consider subscribing, and I will bring you more videos every weekend. Take care then. Bye.